Welcome to Running Hot, Action Network's motorsports betting podcast. I'm your host, Nick Giffen, predictive analyst here at Action Network. And joining me, as always, my co-host, Stephen Young of Roto-Grinders, better known as Stevie TPFL. And this week, we're talking bets for the Echopark Automotive Grand Prix at Circuit of the Americas here on Running Hot. Last weekend at Bristol, Denny Hamlin took his first win of the regular season, taking home the checkered flag at Bristol in what turned out to be an unexpected tire management race at Bristol. Teammate Martin Truex Jr. scored his best ever Bristol finish, coming home in second place. And Brad Keselowski rounded out the podium with a third place finish for an all-veteran driver trio at this tire management Bristol race. Stevie, I know that certainly wasn't what we were expected going into Bristol, and even not necessarily after practice and qualifying. We certainly saw some funky things in practice, but I don't think we knew how much of a tire management race that was going to be. What were your thoughts on Bristol, on the race itself, and on what we thought about the tires?
Okay, so my initial thoughts were watching it live, what a mess, was my first initial thoughts. And I think I went back and I rewatched it that night, betting aside, fantasy aside, and just rewatched the race and watched how the veterans adjusted to the race and watched the young guys like Ty Gibbs push it a little bit more than you should. And I'm like, this reminds me of old school NASCAR. So while I do think it was somewhat of a mess because it had, all of this just to say, had we had a 50-minute practice session, it was our first short track of the year. We had resin for the first time instead of PJ1 with this car and this tire. Had we had a 50-minute practice, we would have known this was going to be the case, as practice was happening. And we would have seen teams adjust, and it would have been fantastic. It was still really good. It was entertaining. Watching it back, I enjoyed it way more than I enjoyed it watching it live. Because you're watching and everybody is just talking about tires, and the racing was fantastic. There was a lot of passes for the lead. There was a lot of passing in general. So the racing was fantastic, but is the tires going to hold up? And every 30 laps, we had a tire go down 35 laps, and we had cautions. And so watching it live, I was just kind of a little confused, but rewatching it again, fantasy and betting aside, that was awesome. I thought it would have been way more awesome had we had a practice session and teams could have prepared and, camber being taken out and all that stuff. And I liked it. It's different. We like good racing. It was good racing.
Yeah, I agree with literally all of that. And, you mentioned, Ty Gibbs falling back. He finished 9th, but, I mentioned the top 3. Look who finished 4th, veteran Alex Bowman. Look who finished 5th, veteran Kyle Larson. Then you have John Hunter Nemechek, a little bit of a surprise in 6th, but then Chris Buescher, another veteran, finishes 7th. Chase Elliott, another veteran, finishes 8th. It's all these guys, they are veterans. Yeah, some of them are, younger veterans in their upper 20s or lower 30s, but they've all been around 5, 6, 7 years in NASCAR and certainly had a little bit better idea of what to do with the tire situation here than, like you mentioned, Ty Gibbs. And Ty Gibbs goes out, wins stage 1, wins stage 2, ultimately ended up burning the tires off a little too soon, finishing 9th. But that guy, he's going to win soon, and I think we'll end up talking about him a little bit more today. But that was the Bristol review. Time to head to the Circuit of America's preview. COTA is our first road course race of the year. It is one of our larger road course circuits, but it has some fast sections, but also has some tight technical sections. So really interesting road course here. Stevie, I know since this is our first road course race of the year and we have a lot of newer listeners, talk about the difference between oval racing and road course racing, not even necessarily just betting, just what's the difference in what people can expect to watch?
Yeah, so first of all, I love COTA. It's my favorite road course. I am so happy that this racetrack in general was added to the schedule a few years ago. I think it's awesome. Oval racing, you have to, be fast going left and basically be fast, just, being able to pass cars and managing your speed. On road course racing, you have to be able to manage your tires because you're braking and you're using so much tire getting around the corners, and you have to manage your tires. You have to manage strategy. I mean, yeah, we talk about strategy on ovals. It's not even close to the strategy that we're going to talk this weekend because of how stage cautions kind of shape up in road course racing. It takes almost 2 minutes to get around on a road course on average, different road courses, but you can pit during a green flag run and not lose a lap. The only other place you could potentially do that is Daytona and Talladega, but you're going to lose a lap because of the draft. So this road course racing strategy is one of the biggest things here, but you have to be fast turning left and right. There's a lot of different, situations. So setting your car up for 15 turns instead of setting your car up for 5 turns or 4 turns is one of the biggest difference here. That's why typically with road courses, you see drivers that are good at road courses be good at road courses because, I mean, it's just a unique type of racing that we see in the NASCAR Cup Series. And heck, we've gone from like it being 2 road courses to now 5 and 6 road courses a year. So it's not something you can just kind of push to the side. And we've seen a lot of drivers really take getting better at road course racing very seriously.
Yeah, definitely. Certainly, like you said, different style of racing. I guess 2 other tracks you could, Indy potentially and Pocono.
Yeah,
if
Indy,
you're close enough to the leader, you can pit and get back out on the lead lap. But it's very few and far between. But at all the road courses, you can do that as long as you're not like way behind. So it opens up a lot of strategy, and it certainly opens up a lot of strategy around the stage cautions, which are back this year for all the road courses. I know they were eliminated for, I think it was all but the Roval last year. I think they reintroduced them back for the Roval, but last year at COTA, no stage cautions. So when we're handicapping, how are we applying the difference between last year's COTA where there were no stage cautions and this year with stage cautions?
I think for handicapping purposes, we look at speed more than anything else. And speed doesn't really change when there's stage cautions or not stage cautions. So I think that is one of the biggest things to kind of remember when you're looking at this race from the outside looking in. The other thing that you have to think about now is who's going to pit before the stages and who's not. Like who could potentially, like, I think the perfect example right now is Joey Logano. He's way down in points. He's likely not going to be a top 5 car in speed. Road course racing is hit or miss for Joey Logano. But if we look at like his COTA speed, I mean, this is a guy that was 23rd and 27th in speed in the 2 COTA races with the next gen car. If he has an opportunity to grab a couple stage points, he's probably going to stay out and grab a couple stage points. And then you have guys like Suarez, you have guys like that have won already that could potentially pit early and try to win another race. Like those 5 points are huge. Stage points, that 1 point is huge, don't get me wrong, but those 5 points are massive for the playoffs. And I think you have to take advantage of trying to win a race more than, winning a stage. So it's going back and looking at the data from 2022 to try to get an idea of who is aggressive with pit strategy and who's going to stay out and try to get stage points. I mean, winning a stage is a point for the playoffs. So it's really tough to say what we're expecting here. But I mean, Daniel Suarez is the perfect example. He had one of the best cars in 2022 here, stayed out at the end of stage 1 and just got destroyed in traffic and just couldn't get back up towards the front. So I think we see a lot of people pit, especially after watching the Roval last year.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like you mentioned, Daniel Suarez, I think is a great example. Grabbing those 5 extra playoff points for a race win would be huge for him. And he already has a win on the year, of course, winning at Atlanta. So he has no reason to stage points race. And what that does is it puts him on what we call like the optimal strategy, the best strategy to finish toward the front. But you also mentioned it. Speed here is going to trump everything. Last year, Tyler Reddick made an extra pit stop and still won the race pretty handily. So if you're fast here, that's going to be the ultimate key. So a little bit of strategy, a lot of speed. That's what's going to matter here. Getting ahead of myself because I wanted to talk about the manufacturers. Obviously, Toyota has been great this year. We saw them. They just won Bristol as well. And now we have the new body for Toyota with a new body for Ford. Any inkling there as to how these manufacturers may shake out at a road course this year?
Yeah, I think Toyota's the manufacturer to beat right now. The speed that we've seen from them on multiple different types of tracks, they're just really fast. And it started at the Clash. They've just been fast since the green flag started at the Clash. So I think Toyota is the team to beat. I think Chevy's fast. I think Chevy is going to be really fast next year when they introduce their new body. Like, and it's going to happen, right? They're too far behind this year. Good drivers for Chevy have been struggling a little bit. So I think Ford's the really interesting one here because the whole body situation for Ford was supposed to help them on short tracks and supposed to help them on road courses. It was supposed to decrease a little bit on super speedways, and I mean, they still had a ton of speed on super speedways. So looking at, just a couple of the races that we've had this season, Phoenix, for example, Ford's had a lot of speed. So I'm expecting Ford's to have a lot of speed this weekend with this road course short track package, and hopefully play the right strategy. But I think Ford, we're going to see definitely increase from last year. But I really do think manufacturer wise, Toyota's just the manufacturer to beat right now.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Toyota is definitely the manufacturer to beat right now, but I do think Ford will have some improvement. That makes me like a lot of these Ford drivers that have shown some speed on road courses. And I know we'll be talking about them when we get to our bets. Any other final thoughts on just COTA itself, how to handicap the race, just to help out our listeners here?
I'll be making a lot of my COTA bets pre-practice. I've already posted a bunch that I like, and I really want to kind of take advantage of some of the numbers. Like the last couple of weeks we've talked about, there hasn't been a ton of value. I think there's a lot of value this week. So on a lot of stuff early here in the week, we're going to talk about some of it here on the show. But yeah, just overall, maybe we get a little bit of, backwards value, like some of the guys that we expect to be favorites. Like I tweeted out yesterday, I was like, hey, does anybody else really hope that like Tyler Reddick starts like 20th? Maybe he goes off the corner in a track or something and starts 20th, but it's really hard for me to bet him at 5-1, even though I do think he is like the clear-cut favorite for this race. But yeah, I mean, I really do think handicapping COTA is trying to go back and look at 2022 strategy for crew chiefs. Just look at the crew chiefs. You don't even have to look at the drivers, and just see like who was on the optimal strategy, like you mentioned. We call it the race-winning strategy, or who was pitting early, or running for stage points, and looking at a little bit of standings as far as driver points. I think that again, Joey Logano is the perfect example. He's not going to be a top 5 car in speed. If he can, kind of mustered out some stage points, I think he's going to.
Yeah, definitely, Stevie. I agree with all that. Certainly for practice, obviously something important to watch there, but I think I will be making most of my bets before practice as well. Although I don't have too many bets. Look, it's March Madness. I know you're watching the games. We're recording during the games, and that's certainly going to be a focus this week. So definitely lowering my volume this week. I said I was going to last week for Bristol, but actually doing it this week. But I do have some good bets for this week. And Stevie, we're a lot on the same page, as everybody's going to see. So it is time to dive into those bets. As always, we're going to take you for a lap around Circuit of the Americas. Now, it has 20 turns. We're not going to do 20 turns. So we'll lump 5 turns into a turn and do 4 turns, 1 pick from each of us per turn before we drive into victory lane. So it is time to wave the green flag on the Echopark Automotive Grand Prix at Circuit of the Americas and dive into turn 1. All right, Stevie, turn 1. We're both on this pick. Like I said, we're going to be on a lot of the same picks. Our victory lane pick will be our combined favorite, but we're both on this same pick for turn 1. What is it?
Yeah, it's funny. We're very much on the same page this week, just in general, from what we were talking about earlier. But we're going to go, or I'm going to go, and hey, you like this one too. I'm going to go to Chris Buescher, top 10 finish here at plus 115. Buescher finished top 10 in 5 of 6 road courses last season. My model is showing this as one of the best values on the entire board to start the week. He ranked 8th in speed on road courses last season, and in the 12 road course races with the next-gen car, Chris Buescher has an 8.4 average finish, which is the best among active drivers. He's finished top 10 in 10 of those 12 races. This is a very plus EV bet, and I was shocked. I was literally shocked to get this at plus money here to start the week off.
Yeah, totally shocked. It's certainly one of the best bets of the week. And, like we said, if the Ford body helps out, that'll help him out even more. And you mentioned those last 12 races. He has 10 of them inside the top 10. I believe one of those was also an 11th place finish. So 11 out of the 12 are inside the top 11 for Chris Buescher. So getting this at plus money, getting the new Ford body, you got to love it. Chris Buescher for a top 10 finish at plus money. Even at a little bit of minus odds, right? Like if it was minus 110, I think I'd probably still take Chris Buescher for a top 10 finish. But since it's out there at plus money, we are going that nose to tail through turn one. Chris Buescher, top 10 finish at Circuit of the Americas. So one turn down, 3 turns to go. We're going to dive into turn 2. All right, turn 2, Stevie. We got a couple different picks for y'all here. A couple top 10 bets. What's your top 10 bet?
Let me go to my boy AJ Allmendinger at top 10, minus 125 over at BetMGM. Last season, AJ Allmendinger ranked first on road courses in speed. And we know he's back in the Xfinity Series full time this season, not running a full Cup schedule. Doesn't matter to me. It actually kind of helps him. We're back with stage cautions like we talked about. AJ's not running for points anymore. They're chasing trophies, as Colleague Racing likes to say. This is going to put him on the optimal strategy to try to win this race. So I don't mind even looking at like his outright odds, but he should short pit the stages, be on the right strategy, ton of upside as far as speed. I'm not worried about being a third Colleague car. They're not putting AJ in a car if they don't have a chance to win this race. So AJ top 10, minus 125. Being on the right strategy is half the battle. And I think AJ is definitely going to be on that right strategy.
Yeah, and AJ Allmendinger, we should mention he is going in that third Colleague car. The guy going in the second Colleague car has a race win himself. That is Shane Van Gisbergen. He will be in the 16 car that Allmendinger has normally been driving, drove last year full-time and part-time this year. So both of them will be on the optimal race-winning strategy. They are Colleague Racing hunting for a trophy at Circuit of the Americas. For my turn 2 pick, I'm also going to go to a top 10 bet. But I'm going to turn it over to a guy who's bounced back this year with some speed overall, just at a lot of these tracks, and that's Chase Briscoe. Chase Briscoe is a very good road course racer. Look, in 2021, his rookie year, he had 3 top 10 finishes at road courses. That was a 50% ratio. Last year, at Circuit of the Americas, he finished 15th, but he was kind of in the mix there at the end. There was some beating and banging. It didn't quite work out. And 2 years ago at Circuit of the Americas, he was running 5th or 6th when he got spun off track and ended up finishing 30th, like really late in the race. He was running inside the top 5 or 6 there. So Chase Briscoe is a guy who finished 6th at Indy Road Course last year, for example, has a top 10 finish at the Charlotte Roval. He gets finishes at road courses, add in the improved body for Ford, and I think plus 250 is just too long of a number on Chase Briscoe, given what he has done at road courses in the past, in the speed he's kind of bounced back with this year.
I'm not going to lie. I just instantly tailed you on this one. I like this one a lot. Briscoe 2022 was one of those drivers that had really good speed on road courses. Last year did not. I think the new body is really going to help him. He's a good road course racer. We've seen him in other series be a good road course racer. I like this line. So I instantly tailed you. I'm with you on this one.
Yeah, and I also failed to mention, of course, that Chase Briscoe plus 250 is available at our sponsor, BetMGM. So kudos to them for having the best price available on Chase Briscoe. So that's 2 turns down, 2 turns to go. Before we drive into turn 3, a reminder, this podcast is presented by North Carolina's newest sportsbook, BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5. For new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, so like I said, 2 turns down, 2 turns to go. It's time to drive into turn 3. All right, turn 3, Stevie, what do you have for us? We are both on this pick. I tracked this earlier in the week in the Action Network app. The only bet I have tracked so far, I'm waiting, of course, for the podcast to drop before I track these other bets so that you guys, get the lines while you're listening. But Stevie, what's our turn 3 pick here?
It's coming, and I think this is one of the best chances we're gonna have here. But We're going to go to Ty Gibbs at 13-1 here. Fantastic road course racer in the Xfinity Series. His first career Xfinity win was at Daytona Road Course, which we don't run anymore. His rookie season in the Cup Series, he ranked 4th in speed on road courses, and he got better as the season went along on road courses. He was top 3 in speed at both Watkins Glen and the Charlotte Roval to finish out. Chris Gale is known to be very aggressive, so I like that when it comes to, hey, we're probably in a really good spot where we've started the season with points. Let's go win a race. And I feel like Chris Gale is going to be on that race-winning optimal strategy that we keep talking about. I like Ty Gibbs this weekend. I really was hoping we'd get this at like 20 to 25-1. Not going to happen. Too good. And I like Ty Gibbs a lot. I think he gets his first win this weekend.
Totally agree with you. I love Ty Gibbs this weekend. Just a fantastic road course racer. We've seen it in the Xfinity Series. Pretty much every road course he was running near the front or at the front. And last year, look, he improved a lot. I remember he had a good run at Sonoma before he faded a little bit. But then you remember Indy Road Course, he got sent to the back and drove all the way through the field. It had one of the fastest cars in that race. Just that race didn't really develop any cautions. Now we have those stage cautions back. So Ty Gibbs, outright winner, 13-1. If you only have 12-1 available to you, I'm still showing value on that at 12-1. So Stevie and I on the same turn 3 pick or on the same turn 1 pick. We're going to be on the same victory lane pick, of course. So literally 3 out of the 5, 4 turns plus victory lane, we're going to be on the same pick here. But we are going to be different in turn 4. So let's dive into turn 4. 4th turn, Stevie, where are you going on this one?
And what's funny, really quickly, going back to Ty Gibbs, we talked about how our models loved him last week. Our models are right. He was right there. He was really good. But my turn 4 pick, I've bet everything Ross Chastain. I've bet his outright. I've bet his top Chevy. I've bet just about everything for Ross Chastain you could bet. Showing a ton of value on Ross Chastain at 16-1. Trackhouse Racing has hit on something at COTA. Both Suarez and Chastain has been fast in the next-gen car, both races. Chastain has been really good here. Even in the rain race, he was really good here. So he was first in speed here in 2022. He won that race. COTA is this unique road course where you have a lot of elevation change. You have a lot of fast, a lot of slow. He's really good at this type of racetrack. It's a driver's road course. Ross Chastain at 16-1 is a lot of value. So, again, I like his top Chevy. I think plus 750. I just like Ross Chastain, and I feel like they're going to be very aggressive with strategy, and he's going to be on the right strategy as well. So I think Ross Chastain is another guy that I want to get his outright here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I may end up on this one as well because this would be my second best value on an outright. Ross Chastain has just crushed it here. I mean, let's be frank. He's kicked ass at Circuit of the Americas. He's got the win. He was great in that rain race. Fast last year, of course. He was part of that whole schmozzle with Chase Briscoe, his own teammate Daniel Suarez, and himself. They all, a little heated there at the end between all of them, but all love now. But you mentioned Daniel Suarez as well, right? He won stage 1 at COTA 2 years ago, and then pitted at the end of stage 1 instead of going on the optimal strategy, spun out shortly after that in the middle of the pack in stage 2. So Trackhouse Racing bringing a lot of speed at COTA. For my turn 4 pick, this is a fun one, and I'm shocked by this line. I'm going to take Legacy Motor Club to have the best finish over Rick Ware Racing. This blows my mind. This is minus 130. And all we're picking is who's going to have the highest finish. Is it going to be a Legacy Motor Club driver, which is Eric Jones or John Hunter Nemechek? Or is it going to be a Rick Ware Racing driver? And so that would be Justin Haley and I believe Kaz Grallis in this one still. But correct me if I'm wrong there, Stevie.
Yeah, it's still Kaz Grallis.
That's right. So, and to me, it doesn't really matter which driver it is. But Kaz Gralla, he's great at road courses, but this is Rick Ware Racing equipment versus Legacy Motor Club equipment that has competed with Joe Gibbs Racing 2311 for top Toyota honors at a couple of these. And if we like Toyota, I mean, I don't even understand this line. This is like one of those smash spots where I'll be betting more than a unit on this one. I don't even have anything left to say. This is just an absolute ridiculous line, and I will take Legacy Motor Club over Rick Ware Racing at minus 130 all day as a multiple unit play.
Yeah, I don't understand this one. Not even the least bit. Like, it's not even close. I hadn't looked at this one, but it's not even close. Like, I literally just pulled up my like early week running of stuff, and like it's not even remotely close. Like, my model has this as like minus 190 is good value. So minus 130 is definitely something I want to jump on here. Like, even Justin Haley last couple years in like the colleague car at best was like a 15th place car. And we saw Justin Haley and both Cascarello do really well at Bristol last week because they're so slow they could just run their normal speed and they weren't wearing the tires out. So, yeah, I think that this one is definitely, like you said, this is a smash spot.
Yeah, absolutely love it. It's a multiple unit play for me. I literally was floored when I saw the line, and I don't have any other analysis other than fast cars versus slow cars. You got to play the fast cars. You know what I mean? And that's really all it comes down to. So turn 4, a multiple unit play for me might be the first multiple unit play I've ever given out on Running Hot. That's how much I like this. So 4 turns down, we're crossing the finish line at the Echopark Automotive. That's a tough one to say. Echopark Automotive Grand Prix. And there's only one thing left to do, and that is drive into victory lane. Stevie, we're both on this one. I'll let you lead us here in victory lane.
Yeah, we're going to go back to the top 10 market. Stenhouse did us wrong last week with some issues, and, you know, it happens. But we're going to go back to the top 10 market here. Austin Cindric, top 10 finish, plus 130. We're both on this. We're both on we think the Ford train is going to have more speed just in general. Austin Cindric is a road course expert. This is why he won so many races in the Xfinity Series. This is why he literally got a cup ride is because of how good he was on road courses. He had a ton of speed on road courses in 2022, just in general. Struggled last season. I'm hoping the new body with the Ford helps that a lot. This is one that I was debating on even taking like his outright at, you know, but I'm going to wait for practice and qualifying. If he struggles, we might get a little bit better odds here, but looking at his COTA, just at his 2 COTA races with the next-gen car, top 5 in speed in one of those races, top 10 in the other, this is a really good top 10 bet here, thinking that like Ford's just going to be better overall.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I mean, this was my favorite bet of all the bets. I talked about this earlier in the week as well. Austin Cindric, top 10 finish, plus money. He is really good at Circuit of the Americas. You remember the rain race? He was really good in the dry. He struggles in the rain. This is something we had seen repeatedly in the Xfinity Series, where when it gets wet, he does worse, but when it's dry, he does well. And Circuit of the Americas, he's always been a top 10 in speed in the dry. So when you have a driver who's always top 10 in speed and you're getting him at plus money, I love this. I'm going to be all over some Austin Cindric bets. I think I'll probably end up on another 1 or 2 Austin Cindric bets, potentially something like a top Ford, maybe a couple matchups. This for me, this is a great spot for Austin Cindric, especially when we get this new Ford body. And he's been a driver who's been a top 6 or 8 car every single Circuit of the Americas race. So Austin Cindric, top 10 finish, plus 130 is Stevie and my victory lane pick for COTA. That is going to do it for us. Thank you for listening to the Echopark Automotive Grand Prix episode of Running Hot, Action Network's motorsports betting podcast. We'll be back this time next week as we talk bets for the Toyota Owners 400 at Richmond Raceway. On behalf of my co-host, Stephen Young, thanks again for listening. We'll see you back here next week on Running Hot from Action Network.